Welcome along to Mondo Chelloveck Movies. My name is John, and this movie is 10 4Ks that I would watch immediately after watching them the first time because I had that much of a great experience with them. What a title. So first up, I'm going to do something weird. I'm going to start off with number one straight away. It is, of course, Halloween Ends. And no, of course it's not. The reason behind this video is when I was looking through my shelves the other day, I was looking for something to watch. And I come across quite a few movies that I thought, you know what it is, I could watch that now and watch it immediately afterwards because I have that much a great experience with the 4K. Now, the best thing about these 4K upgrades that I've got here is that they are all sizable upgrades over the previous. I used to watch them on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray. I've watched them throughout the whole life of physical media. These are some of my favorite movies of all time. But for some reason, I do feel that when I put these things on, I have that much of a great time with them, and usually to do with the 4K upgrade, that I think, you know what, I could just watch that again. I'm having such a good time with them. And it just shows you that sometimes when you get a good 4K of a movie that you've previously watched a couple of times and you've thought, this is great, I love this movie. But to see it in this new fashion, you think this is just so great, and you're having such a great time with the whole presentation of it that you think, you know what it is, I could just stick that on another time and enjoy it equally as much. Now, this is not going to be like a top 10 ranking, but it's going to be 10 movies in no particular order, but I'll take you through kind of my reasoning behind them. So, first up is The Fog. Now, the reason why I would want to watch this twice in a row is because it's got nostalgic reasons for me. This reminds me of going down to Whitley Bay Playhouse and watching this 4 times in a week after seeing it and couldn't believe how good this movie was. I saw this movie at exactly the right time. It petrified me. It doesn't anymore, but it just shows you that at my time of age, when I was thinking I was about 14, I watched this and I couldn't get my head around what I was seeing. It was so atmospheric. Obviously, I live in a town which is like there's a cove down there that's exactly like the cove in here. You could stand at St. Mary's Lighthouse and you could look right along the coast, and it looks exactly like this bay. It's quite spooky when you were sitting there in this film cinema that was actually a stone's throw away from the beach when you're watching this. This was another thing that sort of got into my mind. So this has got the ultimate nostalgia kick for me. But apart from that, when I've watched this in every shape and form it's coming, and the VHS I found was quite dark. Unfortunately, some of these movies are dark, but the VHS can't handle it that much. Everything becomes black and you can't make anything out. I think I had a great time in the cinema for what I remember. It was 1980 after all. But I do think that this one, for me, has a nostalgia trip with it, coupled together with the fact that this looks absolutely stunning on 4K. So that's The Fog. Next up is Dario Argento's Suspiria. Now, the reason why I watch this is because the picture quality is that stunning that I find myself kind of lost in the actual picture quality. I'm just constantly amazed by what I'm seeing on the screen. And actually, sometimes you think to yourself, I haven't really watched the movie because I'm just picking things apart. The colours, the way that Dario Argento has those 3 colours on the screen at the same time, he has these back projections of these colours coming through like sort of like sheets of like paper, and also sheets as well, bed sheets. It's quite fantastic. The movie is a visual treat. Now, when movies come across like this, I mean, this movie is great anyway. I love this movie. I love the score and I love everything about it. But when this movie is such a visual treat on your eyes, you find yourself being drawn out of it to actually look at what you're seeing and being stunned by what you're seeing. And the 4K on here is just sensational. If you can get your hands on it, do go for it because it's one of the best 4Ks you'll ever see. So really, in a way, I'm going to say this is kind of the first time watch of this is kind of distracting watch, because even when I've left it for a bit and I want to go back to it, I do feel like I need to put this on a second time because I'm that distracted watching it the first time around because it's so good. I feel like I have to put it on again to actually watch the movie properly, if that makes any sense. So that's the reason behind this movie. It looks that good that you can't take your eyes off it and you kind of get lost in it and you kind of forget that you're actually watching a film. So that's Suspiria. Next up is Demons. Now, I love the setting of this movie. This movie is set in a cinema. That is a big tick for me in the first place. The second one's okay. I like it a lot more in 4K, but the first one I'm going to talk about in this one. This is the one when I got it back in the day. You got to remember when this came out in 1986, the video nasty thing was in full flight, and you never saw a bit of gore on the screen. Now, this thing was one of the goriest things you could ever see at that time. The cover was amazing as well. The cover never got banned. I haven't got the cover on here, but it's a different cover. But the cover. I'll put it up there. So this has got this kind of nostalgic trip again for the fact that when you saw this in 1986, it was like you couldn't get your hands on anything like it, and it was set in the cinema as well, and it's got some amazing special effects in it, which were groundbreaking for the time, especially when you think of it being a kind of low budget Italian movie. It just came out of nowhere. It was nothing like anything I'd seen before. And for that reason, I did watch it on the loop back in the day. Of course, when I got the 4K for it, it was like watching a new movie because you're getting the black levels in the cinema, which would bring this movie to life. And another thing, like I say about these 4Ks, when you get these 4K upgrades, when you get an upgrade from a movie you haven't seen for ages, and obviously the Blu-ray was a little bit less than that, and you get like a really nice upgrade, and not just an upgrade from the 4K Blu-ray, which remastered Blu-ray, which doesn't look too different. These are like revelations, and to get one of your favorite movies from a yesteryear, which has nostalgic meanings to you, and you can see this in this fashion, it takes this movie to a next level for me. And that's another reason behind the fact that I'm drawn to these movies. You find that most of these movies are old movies. I don't think there's any new movies. You get no nostalgia trip with a new movie, sadly to say. That's a thing that's gone in the past, for me anyway. And I like to be taken back to a time when life was different and also the world was different. And you're just a kid. When I saw all of these movies predominantly, I was just a young lad and I was so blown away by anything. It was like literally the next thing you saw was like that you hadn't seen this type of thing before in your life. You didn't know it kind of existed. So anyway, nostalgia trip again, picture quality stunning. That's Demons. Next up is a movie I talk about all the time. Of course, it's The Elephant Man. Huge nostalgia trip for me. But for some reason, and this is weird about this movie and this movie in general, this movie is a tearjerker. There's no getting away from it. You are really put through the ringer when you watch this movie. Now, when I watch this movie, and it does get us every time. In fact, it gets us more every time I watch it. I'm like a blubbering heap by the end of it. But after that, you kind of want to watch it again. Usually, you only get a movie that kind of sends you to that area. You think, right, I'm done with that one. I don't really want to watch that again because this movie's so like it's moving, but it's also kind of life affirming in a strange sort of way. I mean, John Merrick here had everything thrown against him, and to be honest, he was one of the nicest sort of mellow guys ever. That with this type of, he could have been the complete opposite way. So if you think that this person can get through all that, you think anybody can get through anything. So you get a slightly positive vibe off this one, even though it does take you through the ringer. It's an emotional roller coaster for sure. That's The Elephant Man. Next up is Evil Dead 2. Now, it's funny because Evil Dead's a great movie. I love all of this franchise. But for some reason, this is the one that I could feel that I could watch back to back. And I have watched it back to back quite a few times, especially when I got it on the video to start off with. I couldn't get enough of this movie. It was just sensational. And don't forget, at this time, you could not see The Evil Dead. It was kind of banned. It wasn't banned, but it was taken away, and you couldn't see it for life and money. But this one was available. So your go-to was this one. So you can kind of remember what Evil Dead was about by watching this one. But this one's streets ahead in the way of special effects and also comedy as well. Now, I'm going to say that obviously not The Elephant Man, but there's a lot of comedy in these movies that I'm talking about. And I think a comedy movie always has that rewatchability factor here because you remember laughing at certain parts and you can't wait to watch them again to get that, factor. And also, it's great to see it with another person for the first time so you can watch their reactions to it. That's always great. So this is another thing that you used to get when you were young and you used to collect all these movies. You used to collect them. You just can't wait for your mates to come around to put these things on. But this is a laugh a minute, I find, and I just think that it's a movie that's so entertaining from start to finish that as soon as you finish it, you look through these movies, Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2, Evil Dead 3, well, Medieval Dead, Army of Darkness. But this is the one where you think I could just watch that again straight away. So that's the Evil Dead 2. Speaking of comedy horror, next up is American Werewolf in London. This is great because it's got nostalgia through and through with me. It's the first X certificate I saw in the cinema. Loved it. Could not believe what I was seeing. These special effects in here, even now, are groundbreaking. And the physical special effects on movies can't be denied. As a young person, when you see it, yes, sometimes when you sit and look at it, with adult eyes, you can see what's going on. But when you're a kid, you get totally bamboozled by what you're seeing on the screen, and it was just fantastic to see. But the fact that this movie, I don't think I'd seen a movie like it that was so gory, but it had a lot of humor in it as well. And it kind of didn't take itself too seriously. I was thinking, this has got everything because I like obviously love comedies, I love horror. To mix them both together, and there's a few that do that, but not to this extent. I think this was the first one that came out that was just really like that. And it was just so, for me, groundbreaking because I hadn't seen anything like it in the way of comedy and horror. Obviously, the language is a bit choice as well. It just had everything for me as a 14-year-old going to see this in the cinema for the first time. Speaking of back to back, I did stay in the cinema and watch this twice in a row. I told this before. I did have to sit through Elton John in the park to go and watch this for the second time. So yeah, so thoroughly, thoroughly nostalgic, super gore, great humour. That's American Werewolf in London. Next up is a film, and I'm a great fan of this franchise, most of them. And out of all of them, even though this might not be considered the best one, it's my favourite one. It's my favourite one because when I watch it, I could watch it immediately straight after. It is Superman 3. I just think this movie's brilliant. I like the other ones. Well, 4 is a bit, less said about that, the better. But this one for me has got that comedic start in it. It's the comedic tone in here really works for it, I think. The other ones have got elements of comedy in it, but not as much as this one. But I think it works. I love Richard Pryor in here, and I just think that when I watched this one, when I got these ones, and I used to watch them on VHS, this is the one I went to all the time. I'd watch this back to back. Didn't matter how long it was. Now, those movies aren't too long. This one's a long movie, but it doesn't matter to me. If you're having fun with the movie, it doesn't matter if it's like 2 hours or 3 hours. You do want to watch it again. Maybe not 3 hours. Maybe pushing the boat out a bit. But this movie is just such, it reminds me more of VHS. This on VHS was never out of my VHS player. It and the other ones, like Superman 2, I like. Superman 1 is great, but I can't watch Superman 1 on a loop because we watched it, you've seen it, you've done it. Same with Superman 2 to be a certain extent, although the end scene is really good. But this one is just great from start to finish, I personally feel. So that's Superman 3. Speaking of nostalgic comedies, next up is Gregorys Girl. Now, this movie, as I said before, this movie reminds me like no other movie of my childhood. I could literally be in school with Gregory. Everything that happened to him or people in his class happened to me or people that I knew. It was like as if they come to our school and just asked us to write the movie. It's brilliant. It's so well observed. I mean, the 4K in here is just stunning. There's nothing bad to be said about this presentation. I just loved it. But there's another one when I put it on, and I do watch this movie quite a lot. I put it on, and immediately afterwards, I thought, I have got to. That's the first thing I thought. And this is the first thing that made me think about doing a video like this, although it was a while ago and I thought about doing it for the first time. I thought I couldn't wait to see this one again. I have watched this one twice. I didn't watch it twice in a row, didn't have the time. But it was my thought of just saying, I've got to put that back on. I've got to just sit through this because it's like being taken back in time, literally. And, when you're looking at the clothes they wear, the things that they do, the sort of the banter have with each other. It's all stuff that used to happen in school. It's just so good, so well observed, and it's like a joy to watch. And like I say, it's for me, it's the ultimate nostalgia trip, especially when it goes back to my school times. That's Gregorys Girl. Next up is one of those rare movies I could just literally show you the box and that would explain everything that you need to know about this particular title. It is, of course, Jaws. This has got everything for me. It's the ultimate in going back in time, being like frightened to death at a cinema. It's got everything that you could even imagine about a movie. But I think the best thing about this movie is, and it is a classic. It is so well done. I mean, yeah, that shark looks rubber. It's not about that. It's about the fact of what this movie, the people in this movie, the sort of dynamics between the three characters in this movie and the shark. Don't forget the shark is something you would never find in, well, any other or many movies. This one it's got it all. It's got some of the best acting you will ever see. And to be honest, when you're that young, 1975, I was about I don't know, about 7. So when I saw this, I didn't have any idea how good people were at acting. It wasn't even on my radar then. But there was something about it. There was something about those three people in that boat that really connected with us. And now I know it's because they're so good. The dynamics and the sort of casting of this movie is just incredible. So this movie is flawless for me. It is one of these movies when you put it on, you just everything comes flooding back to you, pun intended, and you think to yourself, the way that it's been set up and everything about it, the picture quality is absolutely beautiful in this one as well. And it's got its anniversary coming up next year. So what are they going to put out for what next year? God knows, because there's been about 17 that he's put out recently for this. What is it? 45th anniversary. So the 50th one. I don't know how they're going to top it, but it'd be interesting to see. But highly, highly recommended. I don't need to say this to anybody, but yeah, I couldn't make a video like this without having this on the list. So that's Jaws. And lastly, on this video of 4Ks I would watch twice in a row very easily is Return of the Living Dead. I want to thank my good friend Christopher Wynn for sending me this. It's just amazing. Now, I put this off for a little bit of time. I wanted to watch this in Halloween, and I had it for a few sort of months sitting on the shelves, and I thought, right, I'll watch this. After watching this loads when I was a kid, I put it on, and immediately I thought, I couldn't believe what I was watching. The picture quality in here is absolutely stunning. It's always been dark to me. I used to watch this on a loop in VHS. I had the DVD, had the Blu-ray. The Blu-ray is a bit scratchy, so I wasn't that particularly keen on the Blu-ray. But this one here, it takes this to the the top level for me. And it made me see this movie slightly in a different light, especially the black levels. To be honest, most of the time you kind of didn't really see what was happening too much in the graveyard and the dark levels, but you saw everything in this version of it. And I just couldn't believe what I was seeing in that respect. So this was one of these like nostalgia trips that was given this extra boost because of the picture quality on here. It was like seeing this movie for the first time, and you were getting reinvested in it. And I thought immediately, I just thought I had such a good time with this on this 4K version. I thought I have got to see this one again. And I did watch this one quite soon after it, although not in a day. Like I say, it's hard to do it these days. When I was a young kid, I would have watched this back to back probably 3 times in a day. That's what you would do. You'd stop up till you had finished. Doesn't matter if it's 4 o'clock in the morning. You'd just do it till you were done. These days, I kind of stop at past 11 o'clock without dropping asleep. But anyway, that's the beauty of getting older. So thanks for watching. You take care, especially you, Christopher, and I will see you on the next video. Cheers.